So you want to talk about mental health in athletics. Let's get into it. So guys, welcome back to Sailing Stone Performance Podcast. I've got a very special guest with me today, Jonah Mitchell. Jonah, what's up, my man?
How's it going, Derek? I'm happy to be here. Thank you for giving me this platform to talk about mental health and athletics, man. It's been a long road for me, but I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so relevant right now, everything really current with all the stuff in the Olympics and all these athletes coming out and having, mental health breakdowns or issues. And, I think it's something super important to talk about. And the more light we can shed on it, the more it can kind of normalize, and then athletes can just get help instead of having to suppress all this shit, right?
Definitely, man. I was always a big advocate for getting help, therapy and counseling. Never really talked about it with my teammates for fear of judgment around it. But because people or so many more athletes are coming out about it, I think it's going to be something that's more normalized for athletes coming up in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So your background is in football mostly, right? You played college football for Western Colorado. Is that right?
Yep, Western Colorado University is a D2 school in the mountains of Colorado.
Yeah. You played defensive end?
Yes, sir. I was the wannabe Von Miller of my team.
Yes.
It was fun, man. I grew up playing sports, but football was the one that I was. Well, we'll get into this later, but I ended up playing football the most, and it carried me through college. Honestly, if I didn't have football, I would not have gone to school. But because of all that, because of the lessons I learned from football, I feel like I got a lot of not essentially a leg up, but just kind of a glimpse of what life is really like when you have something to work for, and how you can get in your own way with a lot of these things. So I love football to death. Still watch it to this day, but definitely have some interesting things to talk about my own football experience.
Yeah, bro. Well, let's get into it. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, okay. So for a quick background for those who may not know me, I played football from when I was 8 years old. And I grew up in a pretty rough household. And essentially, this is where I learned all the negative self-talk. Like if I didn't perform very well, I would tie my entire, what's the word, reason to exist into my performance with my sport. So if I wasn't able to perform well, then I would immediately go down a path of like, holy crap, like I'm not worthy of being able to live, essentially. So
but this also stemmed from the pressures from your parents and father figures, right?
Yeah, that's what I was about to get into, because like all behavior is learned behavior, right? It's not like I woke up or I was born with this negative outlook on my life and my performance. It was so much tied into how my mom treated me when I performed well, and how my stepfather at the time would threaten me if I didn't have a good game. There was a point in time where my mom drove away from a football game when I was like 9, 10 years old, when I had a bad game. She came back still, but like at that time, my brain had made this agreement, like, I don't deserve love unless I do well. And I could never connect those dots until 15 plus years later, and how it deteriorated my own self-image. I put myself to such a high standard that if I didn't meet it, and I never met it, it was
because that's what we do, right?
Yeah. We do that. We do it because it's someone else's idea that we're living a lot of the time. So because of that, I mean, like, I always had a drive with football. It's not all bad. Like, without that self-criticism, I wouldn't have at least worked to get better at football. And obviously, I played college football. I was a 3-year starter. I had a blast with my teammates, but I almost entirely revolved I actually did entirely revolve my identity around playing football. So when it was gone, it was like, who the
Yeah.
hell am I?
Well, and I think that brings into like a whole different topic, right?
Yeah.
Of, how do athletes deal when their careers are over?
Oh man.
And we see a lot of that too, where, I mean, was it Richard Sherman that just, had this mental breakdown too? I mean, he's a free agent now. Like, we could imagine all the things going on in his mind and having to deal with the thoughts of like, is my career over? And the worst part is, and from experience, well, we've wrapped up so much of our identity into being this athlete, into this person. We don't know who the fuck we are outside of that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what needs to be worked on, discovered. And, we need to bring light to this so that people understand, all right, I need a path moving out of this to transition from being an athlete into what else do I want to accomplish?
Well, I have a pretty good example of like how I suppressed who I actually was to fill this void or fill this idea, like this football player persona that I had. So I used to be an avid like writer. I used to love writing stories. But it became to the point where I had to choose. Like either I continue to practice writing or I start prioritizing more time to getting better at football because I need to go to college. I need to be a professional athlete because of something that wasn't essentially my dream. My first ever goal, Derek, was to write a book. Like ever. Like first, like I'm sitting in like first grade and it was like reading time. We all got to go to our separate areas, and I would pretend to be being interviewed about the book that I wrote.
Yes.
And because of I remember how passionate I was about writing, but as I got older and the pressure from my parents was to continue to focus on football, it was all revolved around you have to take care of me. So what I wanted didn't essentially matter. So then that's the agreement I made, and writing got put on the side more and more and more until it was completely gone. And it was actually incredibly hard for me to pick that habit back up because I had lost it because I dedicated so much time to this one thing that I was football.
Which wasn't even what you wanted overall, right? It was what your family wanted. So then you take on this identity role, and this is now your identity, and this is who you are, but it's not even what you wanted for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, this has got to be so common, right? Like you can't be the only one that's going through this.
So I'm also a personal trainer and nutrition coach, and a lot of my clients are former athletes who went through the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And that's why they're attracted to me, is because I had to figure out who the hell I was.
Yeah.
Again, we all have this idea of who we are, and that idea, it's not very concrete. We're always changing, finding new things that influence us. But it's very apparent when we don't know what or who we are. And going through that is why I gravitated so much towards fitness, because fitness essentially saved me from this catastrophic tailspin down a tunnel of like what does Jonah do without football? Who is he without football? I thought I was just going to be this football coach forever. But even after I lost football, I love football, but after I stopped playing it, I couldn't stand the thought of watching it, being around it, coaching people in it. Like it was just full disassociation.
I had a similar effect when I stopped wrestling. It's kind of the same. And for me, wrestling was like so mental. That's why I'm really excited to get into the mental world now, because I struggled with that my entire wrestling career. And now I want to be able to help people. I wish I had the tools that I have now back then, but I essentially basically I choked, ranked number one all season long, 2 years in a row, and choked every time I got to state. Right. Mm-hmm. And so then for me, I was like, I'm never going to do this again. I'm fucking over it. I don't even want to look at the sport. I don't, and eventually I got into coaching after that. And then beyond that, I wrestled at Colorado State for a season. And I was in a completely different mindset and just, ripped it apart, which was fantastic. Right. And now that I have the tools on top of it, I want to be able to connect those dots for people, why they're in the sport, and be able to persevere and push through and find out what those limitations are. And, you and I have done a session, and, so one thing that I think is important, the overall goal might be performance for your sport, but how we get there is not necessarily how you might expect, right? Most of the time it is dealing with traumas and different things that revolve around the sport that is actually the reason why you're having this performance anxiety or limiting beliefs or, all these things that are holding you back within your sport.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
Like going through that session, I mean, it's always weird when I talk about self-awareness because I feel like it's weird, but I've been working really hard to be more self-aware, right? And always connect those dots like you were talking about. Yeah. Like, why was I never able to live up to the expectations that I set for myself? Like, where's the limiting factor that's leading me to these limiting beliefs? And I had no idea while I was playing, right? Like, like it's just a immediate, like, I suck at this. I'm not doing this shit ever again. Where in reality, knowing what we both know now, we can go back and probably dominate in our sport because we had to do a lot of this internal work to actually see where these emotions are coming from. So just as every behavior is learned, right? Every feeling comes from somewhere. There's a root cause to feeling frustrated, to feeling annoyed, to feeling angry at someone, something, and it's from that trauma that manifests itself into our performance or lack thereof that really gives you back the power, right? Because when we're younger, I don't know if anyone listening to this can relate, but we don't control a lot of our environment. We are entirely dictated by our family, environment, dynamic, and whether it's a good environment or a bad environment, we have no say. So in those times, it's all about like, how do we find cohesiveness in our own existence? And what are the rules, right? The rules that we will live by essentially until we deprogram that. So I say all that because when we're looking at frustration, lack of performance, mental health, we agreed with it at some point. And until we can find that root cause, like it may not be one specific moment, it may be a collective of moments, but
is, right?
Yeah, it's usually a collective. Once we pinpoint those, then we can really do the work that allows us to come out on the other side with the knowledge of like, I am actually in more control than I thought I was, and really point the finger at no one but ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not my fault that my family didn't take care of me the way I wanted them to, but I get to choose to take care of myself the way I need to.
Well, and that's taking responsibility, right? I think we all know we have these limiting beliefs when we're in the moment, right? But we don't want to believe it. We don't want to actually take responsibility and own up to the fact that, oh, you know what? I need to change my mindset around this. And, and then using that, right? That's the problem is people we aren't taught those tools.
No.
We're taught to push through, stop whining, you know what I mean? Like be tougher. We're taught all those things. We're not taught, oh, here's some, tips to actually change your thinking patterns. Here's some, like, what the fuck?
Dude, I remember that makes me think of a story of when I was like, I think it was like my fourth season ever playing football. I was like 11 or 12. And one of my teammates broke his arm during the game. Like couldn't move his fingers, but he played through. Like it was the first play of the game, he broke his arm. He went through and played the whole game. And afterwards, his parents praised him. My coaches praised him. Like he, in that moment, learned to push through the pain, no matter how excruciating it is. And all of us watching him, we see the praise that he got. We're like, okay, this is how you become a good football player or a good athlete in general. Yeah. You push through, which is definitely like not wrong, right? Like there's a good time to push through pain. And there's a bad time to push through pain. I think at a young age like that, you should not be pushing through a broken arm if you're a lineman.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the long-term effects. I mean, he might still have issues with that arm.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? He might actually have trauma around that arm too, that deals with it in other shit. We can't speak for him, but that's the thing. And I think a lot of what this coaching offers is it gives you the perspective to make the choice, right? It's not about anybody else putting that choice. You get to decide, am I ready to push through this? Is this something that I can push through, or do I need to kind of hold back a little bit? Do I need to, let myself heal? I just broke my fucking arm.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, all those can be like incredibly fresh wounds, right? And we are natural creatures that want to avoid pain as much as possible. And when it comes to uncovering some sort of trauma like that, like it's like I always, and now I'm having another analogy, but I always think of a time where I had a really bad like slide on my knee while I was riding my bike. Just the worst possible scarring cut you could see. But every time I would move, it would just bleed all over the place, and that's how I kind of associate going back and dealing with certain traumas as our brain, like wanting to avoid that pain as much as possible. Like it rather try and forget and let it fester than let it heal the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that something I learned a lot through your session. I mean, I'm definitely more open to talk about my trauma. Like there's really nothing that I'm like an open book. So if anyone wants to know a damn thing about me, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, that's also what allows us to be able to go in so easily and do the work, exactly. Is being open to that and taking responsibility, right? Mm-hmm. Being excited to go into those hard spots.
Yeah. And it's incredibly fucking scary if you're someone who is not aware of where any of this comes from. Because, oh man, I remember, so my wife, Hannah, she was the first woman ever in my entire life that like challenged me to make me like change who I was. Cause like, as we grow older, if we're not aware of our behaviors, we start to mimic and do things that we learned. She was the first time that she put her foot down. She's like, I'm not allowing this to fucking happen. Like you need to either shape up or ship out. And I was like, oh damn. Okay. I was like, why am I acting this way? Like, why am I acting like a jackass all the time? And by asking why, trying to connect the dots, I went back to what I learned from growing up and how my mom would act in relationships. And then I realized I was acting just like her. And that hit a chord for me. And that opened a wound that I wasn't really ready to prepare for, but I couldn't really actualize it, right? I couldn't form words around it because it was just an emotion. And the two parts of our brains that control logic and emotion aren't always connected. So it's like really hard to find that emotion and then put it into words and explain our behaviors a lot of the time until you do that practice to really explain like this the way we act when we're frustrated or when we deliberately go against like what we actually want. It's something that takes a lot of deep diving and hitting those chords over and over and over again to actually address the root problem. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I just kind of went on a random tangent.
Yeah, well, and I think it's also a good example of how having people that we really not just admire, but trust and value, having somebody be able to call us on our shit, because sometimes we don't see it, right? So being able to trust that somebody is bringing that to our attention for a reason and that we can learn and grow from it. And then it's up to you to decide whether or not, she's like enough for you to see that, right? And that you're enough for you to see it. Because ultimately you have to be the one to decide like, oh shit, all right, I don't want to carry on that same pattern that I learned from my parents. I want to break that cycle now. And, it sounds like that's the road you chose because you understood that it was better for yourself. It wasn't, at the end of the day, it wasn't really to benefit Hannah, even though she does get benefit from it, but it was to benefit you. But she brought that awareness of the pattern for you. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of having, counselors and coaches and family and people that you can talk to, and it's so important as an athlete too, to have this support system, and be able to be open about that and with people that can call you on your shit. And if you're not willing to see it, nobody's going to be able to help you with anything. Right.
That is so true. And I mean, both you and I know that our advice when it comes to health, fitness, mindset is better received when it is asked for, even though we may know the better alternative to someone's behavior, if they're not willing and open to start changing their behavior, not identifying what they're currently doing isn't working, they're not going to accept criticism or advice, you know. And I'm king example of this. I used to think I could take criticism, but any form of criticism that I would receive, I would take incredibly deeply, and I would think about it for days, weeks, about like how do I improve that person's perception of me if I didn't work hard enough, or like, you know,
well, and then that comes back to needing external validation.
Yeah. Right? I didn't get enough as a kid, or my performance wasn't as to the standard that was.
Well, it was a learned behavior from your parents that you needed that external validation to put on, right? One, because you didn't really choose the path of football for yourself. Your parents chose that.
Yep.
So you needed the validation that was the right path by the same people that put you on that path.
Yeah.
Right. But then you create this cycle and this pattern. So now you get into a new line of work or a new relationship, and then you look for that same validation.
Yeah.
So the work that we do brings you into healing those parts and figuring out, like, okay, well, what is the path that I want for me? How can I get the validation from myself? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. You hit the fucking nail on the head, dude. We work, like, you are like referencing the session that I did with you. You work really well at uncovering, like, what's a real, what's the word? Like, whenever I said something, the way I said it, you reacted to it, and then we stayed there for longer. You know, you were able to identify the hidden meaning behind it. And I'm not too sure if your listeners are much aware of tapping.
You know, I'm trying to bring more awareness for them. This is a big reason why, you know, excited to have you on so that we can talk a little bit more about what it even is to have a session with me and kind of the work that we do. And then, you know, if they've been watching the videos all the way to the end, we do a tapping at the end just to kind of help release, because the understanding is that anybody who's kind of in our collective consciousness, if we can shift our perspectives and things that are happening for us, then anybody in the field who's also connected is going to have that shift, right? Anybody who's also experiencing the same stuff can have a shift from that. So that's really what we want to get really kind of entwined in this podcast. And, you know, the other part is I'm tired of all these coaches and gurus and people putting out all this content that's kind of like, in my opinion, like half-assed, in the sense of like, I'm going to give you just enough to kind of intrigue you and make you want to coach with me, you know, and I want to give you all the tools. I want to be able to give you the shit for fucking free and allow you to use it and actually give you some benefit and tools that you can carry on. Right now, if what you choose to do with them is up to you. And sometimes having somebody be able to dig with you privately, you know, has a lot of benefit. But the overall goal for me is to be able to give people tools and to share some perspective and maybe shift some of their perspectives around these limiting beliefs and be able to just, you know, exude as much positive performance for people as we can.
Yeah, I love that. And that's, to briefly reference like my business, that's exactly the mindset shift I had to make, where it's like, oh, I don't want to give my information away for free because then people can go do this without me. Like, no, like, if people really need me, they'll ask.
Yeah.
You know, I want to give them everything they possibly need, so that if they still take everything I have and still have no idea what's going on, then they can reach out to me, because I am there. I am that fitness connection that they've associated with, you know. And like, everyone's different. And I mean, you have a structure to everything that you teach, right? You had to learn it from somewhere.
Yeah.
I had to learn it from somewhere. Nothing we teach is like brand new. It's all the same concept, you know. Like, you can, if you really wanted to, you could learn everything that I know about health and fitness. They could learn everything that you know about tapping and mental performance on the internet.
Yeah.
Do they want to scour the internet and reading random articles, peer-reviewed articles that are 100 pages that they can't decipher? Probably not, you know. But we can.
When it comes into like staying in your lane too, right?
Yeah.
Shit, I know a lot about a lot of things, but I'd much rather have somebody who specializes in that, who really loves doing that, to team up to do that, right? Like, even if we're talking about business, like, okay, right now I'm editing this podcast, I'm doing this stuff, but that's not what I want to do. Like, I want to create, I want to give you the content. That's what I'm passionate about, right? I'm passionate about the tapping. I'm passionate about digging into stuff with people. And I'm going to outsource this shit and let somebody else who loves editing podcasts fucking edit the shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's going to be so much better when you have a team of people who are really passionate about everything that they're doing, you know, and understanding that I can give away as much value as I can for free, and it's still going to come back in some way or another, right? And expand my ability to connect with people, right? That's really what it is. It's just about connecting.
Yeah. I mean, that all can tie back into mindset, right? Where
absolutely,
where we have this closed limiting belief that like I can't achieve the things that I want because I have this scarcity mindset around like there's only so much talent in the world. Like if someone's already better than me, like there's no way in hell I can do that. Same thing with anything we do, you know. And this is why I feel like football really like set me up for success in life, like however you define success. Because a lot of these lessons you learn them in sports. You have to learn how to communicate and cooperate with people. You have to learn how to be your own coach and motivator. Like if you can't generate your enough energy for yourself, it's going to be really hard to do anything else.
Yeah. Well, and you have to want it for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Even as a coach, like, I can't fucking help you if you don't want to help yourself. And it's not my job to save you or to, you know, it's not my job to fix you. Mm-hmm. I'm just here to help guide you to fix yourself.
Exactly.
Right. That's all it is. Like, you have to be willing to go there for yourself.
Well, that makes me think of like when I was at a time where I thought I wanted it. Right. But when we say we want something, does your actions align with that? You know?
Yeah.
So mine, when I was in football, number one goal, I just wanted to be an All-American. Wanted it so fucking bad that I believed that I was doing everything I could to be an All-American. But then I go to practice. I coast through practice because like I'm a starter. I don't need to push myself that hard. You know, I'm faster than most of the guys. Like I'm fine. I don't need to challenge myself. And then I would go home. I would play video games till midnight, wake up at 5 and go barely eat throughout the day, barely pass my classes to make sure I played. Like, I wish I knew what an All-American mindset really was.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, I want it, you know, so I show up to weights, I show up to practice, and I show up to games. Like, no, I have to show up everywhere.
Yeah.
And
in everything that you do, right? And it is your mindset. It's something that you have to assume that identity that you are that All-American, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, I really want to do this and it's gonna happen. Like, fuck no, dude.
Oh.
Right? And it's not just showing up to the organized stuff. It's showing up for yourself every single day and everything that you do and having that persona that this is who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you have to also ask yourself, was that really what you wanted because somebody else, you know, you wanted to look good for other people, or was it what you really wanted? And maybe there's your answer as to why it didn't happen.
Dude, so I have 5 younger siblings. 2 of them are boys, and they're 9 and 13. They're in football camp right now, and I'm just there watching these parents, watching these young kids playing football, and like I'm seeing all the behaviors repeat themselves through my brothers and through my mom and all these other kids that like they're out there because they have to be, not because they want to be. You know, I mean, it's very these kids are young, like they really don't know what they want. And a lot of
and it's fine sometimes to be able to push your kids to doing things, encouraging them, right? But how often do parents take it to a whole new level? And a lot of times they're trying to live vicariously through their children, right? Oh, well, I didn't amount to anything, but my fucking kid, he's going to be the best. And so I'm going to push him as far as I can, right?
Yeah.
Because you want it for you. so you can brag about it, so you can tell your friends, right? So much of it, everything that we do as individuals is just because we want to look fucking cool to other people.
Yeah. We don't want, well, not we, but like the parents I'm seeing, or not all of them, but I'm sure there's definitely some awesome parents there, but the majority of them, like you said, like they're trying to live vicariously through there. And from my own experience, my mom was a basketball player. She loved basketball. She was going to go to college to play basketball, tore her Achilles. So I have a feeling that her dream of achieving high status in sports, she pushed down to me, and then pushed down to my siblings. Like we were all athletes. My sister quit diving. She was an all-state diver in high school, and actually didn't really enjoy diving at all. She was just doing it just to please my mom. I assume. I've never really talked to her about it, but that's just from my own understanding. My other sister was a all-state swimmer and really didn't hate swimming, the competitive aspect of swimming, and how she loves to be in the water, to go through the strokes. Like, she enjoys that, but the competitive nature of sports she did not enjoy, so she quit swimming. And now my brothers, they're going through it right now. Like, they're in football, and they're trying to understand, like, what's the hierarchy? How do we achieve fulfillment in this family? And it's just passed down. It's not until we can actually step up and speak our own opinions. Like I said a little bit earlier, we're kind of given these ideas and these personas and these beliefs without really ever realizing that it's us. And it's one where, and to kind of roundabout, it's to finish that idea of when we do know when something is ours. It's what we do unconsciously, what we do throughout the day. So, like, connecting the identity to sports. Like, I'm a football player, blah 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 blah. But I want to be an All-American. But really, I wanted to write stories. I wanted to read books all day. I wanted to go out and play baseball instead of football. And like other things. Like, it's so hard to condense it down into digestible bite-sized forms until we get in front of someone who is like going through the same thing we are, and then we can connect the dots for them.
So let me ask you, since our session, how has your life changed? What are you using? How have you shifted what we've worked on in session, and how are you applying that now? Have you noticed differences?
Yes, I have. And just for context, the session I did with you was mainly around, like, why I always self-sabotage myself, and why the fear of success really, like, gets in my way. And it was about my first stepfather, who ruled with an iron fist, and his criticalness, his judgment, his abuse really forced me to fear my own power, fear my own existence, because of someone that I had to look up to as a father figure could do such atrocities to his family. So those fears, those beliefs really got in the way of my own personal development, my own growth as a business owner, by just, like, sabotaging myself. Like, I would go days, weeks. I would go, not weeks, not I've never been that far gone, but I would go entire days of, like, avoiding any, like, simple tasks, because I was scared that if I get too big too quickly, I would have to, like, either rule with an iron fist, like, you either do this my way or the highway, or I would just fail. And the fear of failure was pushed on me for so long, because if I failed, I would be ridiculed and
you'd have to walk home from the football game.
Yeah. It was very, so that session really, like, took that idea of my first stepfather and put it into perspective, and really helped me see that I don't need to hold on to that. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to walk around being, and I don't have to let that stay in my life and dictate how I act, because I know who I want to be, and I also know who I want to stay, because we're inherently lazy beings, and those simple tasks, like sending out emails or writing posts, like can feel so daunting because we're like, oh, it's so time consuming. It's really not. But
Yeah.
that leads into a bigger, like, how do you see yourself? How do you see yourself as successful? Do you believe you can be successful? Jesus Christ. Do you believe in yourself enough to actually go after what you say you want? And because of our session, I felt so much clarity around every action I do. Like, even if I have no intent, even if I don't want to do it at all, I still find a way to get something done. And I'm not perfect, and I'm okay with that because I'm doing the work necessary to get better every day. Just as even though I wasn't where I wanted to be with football, I could still show up to practice every day and get a little bit better. And nothing in this life comes easy if we really want it, but it really doesn't come if you don't show up at all. And because of our session, it's really helped open up that possibility of showing up even beyond like.
So let me ask you this question. Let me just pose this for you.
Okay.
What if we change your perception on that statement that everything we want doesn't come easy? What if it does come easy? Right? What if we become in so much more alignment with ourselves that it becomes easy to do the work, right? It becomes easy to allow things to just come naturally because we're not fighting any existence that isn't where we want to be.
I agree with you wholeheartedly because really everything is simple. It really is.
Yeah.
It's really simple. The hard part is addressing the monsters under our beds that are self-sabotage, our negative beliefs. Like that's the only hard part, and everything. I'm a fitness guy. Everything I think of revolves around fitness. So making fat loss easy is my thing, and really the process of losing fat is so easy.
Yeah. But we overcomplicate things.
Yeah. It's really not that hard. Like, like eat 2 to 3 meals. No, eat 3 to 4 meals a day, walk 10,000 steps, drink your water, work out 2 to 3 times a week. That's really it. That's like, stay consistent with that for months and you'll see success.
Well, and I think you just hit the nail on the head, right? It's consistency.
Yeah.
And when we think about success and we think about all of these big things, right? We think about the houses and the cars and we think about all this stuff and it's like these big things, but we don't think about is just the small tasks that are mundane, essentially, right? The small fucking boring shit that you have to do every single day that ends up adding up to this huge, success. Yeah. But when we focus on the overall huge success and we don't focus on the daily chores that we have to tick off the box to actually get it done, we just sit there and we wonder and we wish and we have these dreams and these hopes, but we don't actually fucking do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Progress is slow. If it's slower than we think. Like, we don't get to those big houses, those cars overnight, right? If you do any studying about gigantic corporations, like, I don't know if you ever read the book Good to Great, but it just goes over the big buildup that many businesses have. And I think the analogy is a flywheel. You constantly you're turning the flywheel a little bit more and more and more until eventually the flywheel turns on its own. It's that 1% every single day, checking off the boxes until you get to the point that the flywheel is automatic, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. But a lot of times that 1% every day is too slow for us. Even me, like I'm not this all-knowing person who's perfect at everything he tries. I still have to remind myself every day that I'm still just trying to get a little bit closer every day, because if I can get a little bit closer, there is a chance that my own flywheel will start to spin on its own. And then all the mundane things I would complain about, I'll miss because I have much bigger things to worry about now. It's just as you said, like, you want to find someone who enjoys editing podcasts, editing your content. You want to make the content all the time. oh man, I cannot wait for the day where I don't have to touch editing software. I mean, Hannah does most of that already. I've tried. I'm just not patient about it,
Yeah.
and I don't want her to have to edit all the time. So I know she's more capable of much bigger things, but it's something that she enjoys. But all that being said, it's the mundane where it's where the success is built.
Yeah.
Like if you can be okay with being bored for a while, then you'll actually start reaping the results.
Yeah. Well, we can tie that into athletics too, right? It's showing up for the practices, giving it 110% every single down.
Yeah.
Right. Every single play is everything you got, and getting to the gym and nutrition and sleep, right? That's the boring shit. I don't want to talk about sleep. I want to be up playing video games. Yeah. No, you don't. You want to get to fucking sleep, and you want to get up and you want to have a good morning workout. You want to have a good morning routine where you're drinking enough water, you're eating solid food, right? All of these things, that's the mundane stuff that goes into being a fucking high performance athlete.
Yeah. And I think Ray Lewis is just a testament to that. I don't know if you ever heard his speeches, but I mean, barring his criminal history.
Sometimes we self-sabotage once we are successful too, right?
Yeah.
You can't handle all of that joy, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. But like that aside, the way he speaks to success, like it hits me different now, knowing what I do now. Because back then I was like, I do give it 110% every down, but do you really?
Yeah. I think we lie to ourselves a lot. We can always be doing more.
Yeah.
And in the back of our minds, we know that, but we try to convince ourselves, right? But our subconscious knows we can do more. We can do more. We can do more, because you see the people who know they've put every single thing they have, right? Or also you have the people who are naturally gifted who don't like, they know that even if I don't give 100%, I'm still going to win. Right. And that's a mindset too. That's a mindset too. They don't have that voice, saying, well, I should have done this. I should have done. I don't give a fuck what I should have done. I'm going to win no matter what.
Yeah.
Right.
I was in that category of like, I had natural talent. So I just assumed that I was going to be better than the guy in front of me, but 9 times out of 10, if a guy is taking extra reps more than I am, if I'm just showing up to practice to just do just enough because I know I'm a better athlete, I'm not doing anything special. If I rely on talent too much, right? Talent's great to have, but if you're never sharpening the axe, right? You're always just dependent on that guy ahead of you not being as skilled as you are. I got my ass kicked a lot of the time. Like practice, I knew I could kick shit out all of the practice squad people. Like easy. Never watch film to prepare for my opponent. And I always, because I knew, like I had this performance anxiety. Like if I perform at the level I think I should, and then we're going back to self-sabotage, I'm going to have to continue to work that hard, and I can't live in the lie that I am doing enough. And it's a whole battle back and forth with that subconscious, like trying to.
Well, because then you can't coast. Once you show people what your really potential or your high potential is, you can't coast anymore, right? And then that's a prime example of the fear of success coming, because now that my potential's in the light, everyone's going to expect this from me.
Yeah.
And how am I going to maintain this all the time? I can't coast. I can't be lazy. I can't, right?
Yeah. Oh man, I wish I had a time machine, but we can't go back in time. We can't go back in time. We can just continue to practice and improve in whatever project we have now. I think it's another piece we could tie into mental health is, you have to have a short memory in sports, but it also is going to take a lot of work off the field to really understand what you are actually capable of, and then believe that. And consistently act to that identity that you should be able to, but there's some underlying reason that constantly hamstrings you over and over and over again, so you don't ever reach that actual potential that you can. I think that's what really separates like the 1%, like the NFL athletes, or really any high performing athlete. I've been watching a lot of the weightlifting for
the Olympics.
Oh my God, like that shit is nuts. Like there are some women like power cleaning like 350 pounds over their head. And I'm just like, holy, like what are they saying to themselves when they're about to get crushed?
Yeah, because that's more weight than they weigh, right? That's more weight than I weigh.
Yeah, that's way more. That's both you and me combined.
Yeah, seriously. Massive amounts of weight.
Yeah, it's just absolutely insane to me that like these athletes can perform at that high of level in front of the entire world and not break a sweat.
Yeah.
I have a dog trying to get in.
They always want part of the good energy,
Oh yeah. She's always fun. Yeah, she might be out of here. There she goes.
No worries. So I'm glad you actually brought up the Olympics, because I think, again, it's super relevant right now. I think we should just talk about Simone Biles and, the mental health issues that she's outwardly spoken about, and other athletes are coming out more and more now, dealing with stuff. And there's been a lot of backlash for her, right? What was it? Novak Djokovic, right?
Yeah.
Came out saying, basically something along the lines of like, well, the pressure is a privilege, right? Like we should expect to have this pressure. And then he goes off the next day and, has a fucking mental breakdown himself.
Yeah.
Right. And so what are your thoughts as far as, these high performance athletes, these Olympians, these professional sports, they're people, right? Like Simone Biles even says, like, I'm not just a performer, like I'm also a human being.
I love listening to people sit on their couch, eat potato chips, judge these high performance athletes. Like even other athletes that lack the empathy, but
yeah, totally. Exactly.
It's so many people don't know what that's like. Yeah. They have zero idea what kind of pressure, what kind of stress that these athletes put their bodies through on a daily basis to be able to perform every 4 years.
Yeah.
5 for this Olympics because of COVID. And my thoughts on the whole thing is like this needed to happen. Like Simone Biles being her caliber of athlete.
Yeah.
From such a young age, right? Wasn't she like 13 or 12? Yeah. She first won gold. Like for her to come out and say like, hey, this is what I need for my own mental health. Like, like that's super powerful and a major lesson that everybody, not some people, everybody can learn.
Yeah.
That the sport isn't us. It's not entirely who we identify as. We are athletes are actual people that get paid to do what they love to do. And the ones who really love what they do are at the Olympics or are professional athletes, not the ones who say they want to be professional.
Oh, because from personal experience, I know from personal experience, if you don't want it is that bad, you will never get to that level if you don't actually want it on some way or another enough to push through your own shit that's holding you back.
Yeah, right? It has to be such a deep intrinsic want, not just this facade of
it can be external, right? Your parents' pressure only lasts so far.
Yeah, eventually it will catch up with you. And I've played with hundreds of teammates that quit because they realize that this isn't what they wanted. I would judge them. I used to judge them for that because wow, you got to college and you quit football, or like in high school, like why'd you even come out? Like it's not the fact that they're out there to try and piss me off.
Right. Yeah. It's not. Well, that's the thing, right? We make all these things about us.
Yeah.
And it's never about us anyway.
Exactly. Like Simone Biles didn't go out there to piss everyone off. She didn't go out there to be judged by other athletes.
Well, I think it's these other athletes. I think it brings something up for them, which is why they're having a reaction to it. Right. Most likely fucking Djokovic is having his own shit. Clearly he was. But probably before that, when he was outspoken, he was having this own internal dialogue because he's struggling with whatever he's struggling with. And instead of acknowledging and taking responsibility and trying to deal with that, he tried to backlash Simone, right? And try and pretend like, well, I'm better. I'm dealing with all my shit, but it's not fucking blowing me up. Oh, yeah, motherfucker. Well, now look at you, right?
Now you're fucked.
And that's the thing, right? Like, we have to have empathy. We have to realize, like, professional athletics and these athletes and celebrities and, they're all just people just like us, right? And they have to deal with their shit or they're going to lose it too, right? Any of us are in that same position.
I think, like, I used to idolize, like, celebrities and athletes, right? Like, I mean, all of us do, especially when we're growing up. We see these people, they're literally larger than life on the big screen all the time. And me and Hannah recently went to the Conor McGregor fight. And we saw, like, Donald Trump there. We saw Machine Gun Kelly. We saw Joe Rogan. We saw who else was there? There's a couple other big names that there. Jared Leto was there, and, like, they were just regular ass people, and say what you want about Donald Trump. I don't really give a damn about your political beliefs, but, like, watching him walk his 75-year-old ass out there was like, he's like just this regular ass guy, and all these people that we look up to, these athletes that we look up to, they're no different. They may be better at us in a certain sport, right? That's totally fine because fuck, they work hard for that. But there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Or
we can.
Our own success.
We can.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's the same, right? I grew up in a really small town, Wyoming, and I always had that same perspective. Like, I really idolized these famous people. I always wanted to be one or to be something, right? And living in LA and actually working, I personal trained some very high celebrities and getting to work on them one-on-one and realizing, like, you're really no different. You took that one special thing that you had and you fucking polished it, right? And you developed it and you kept going. And now you get to showcase that, and it just happens to be in front of millions and millions of people, right? And the real lesson is that they are no different. And every one of us as individuals or as athletes, we need to find our own little, gem and just polish it every day. And that's the mundane that we were talking about. It's all the little tiny things that we think are irrelevant to the bigger picture, but they actually make up the bigger picture. And it's polishing that stone every day and turning it into this huge gem, which is you and your goals and what you want to achieve. Right.
I swear, another Olympian that we can think about, Michael Phelps, that guy, absolutely insane. The shit he used to do.
Yeah.
The most winningest Olympian ever.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen his workout routine?
I have not.
Twice a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
He was pushing his body to the limits every single day, pushing sleds. He was lifting weights. He was barely ever in the pool. He was in the pool like 3-4 times a week. Everything else was outside, like challenging his body, pushing his body to the brink, so that when he won 7 gold medals in one Olympics, like, whenever he hit a wall, he was prepared.
Yeah.
He was calm. He was collected. He polished his gem.
And he polished so much, like, the self-doubt is gone at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because he just knows. I've worked so fucking hard for this. I deserve this, right? Like, and not just entitled, well, I deserve this. I know that this is mine, right? Like, I've polished this so much. Nobody's going to stop me from having this.
No, not. Right? It gets to a point where, like, I start to really, when David Goggins first started coming out and like grow through suffering, right? Push your body to the brink and really earn the right to callous the mind is always what he says. And I didn't resonate with that, until we take it a step back. And, like, suffering doesn't just have to be grueling workouts through like 3 times a day. It can be in many different ways, like suffering through doing things that make you uncomfortable. Doing things within your business or your job that you don't enjoy doing, but doing them anyway, because you have to get them done to the best of your ability, because you're going to get recognized eventually. Because you've been through the shit. There's more overnight successes now than there used to be.
Well, I beg to differ. I think we hear about them overnight. They don't actually happen overnight.
Fair.
Right? Is years and years and years of polishing the stone. And then we think it happens overnight because we just, I saw them, get shouted out on a page yesterday, and now they have 2 million followers tomorrow, and we think it's like they just blew up overnight. But what we don't see is we don't see 10 years of polishing that stone, right? Until they get to that point to where they're ready to showcase, and then they might explode really, really fast.
Yeah. But like you said, 10 years in the making. I think that's something that we all need to remember when it comes to athletics, life outside of sports, like highest level sports. It's one more Olympian. And only because this one's so fresh in my mind. What's his name? Usain Bolt. Trained for 5 years to run for a total of like 20 or 20 seconds, like
exactly.
Couple sprints, and like that analogy is so fucking perfect. 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds he ran to win gold, but that was day in, day out, showing up for training, doing little shit, technique, perfection, like
well, that's also a prime example of how somebody who is already number one maintaining that level.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to slack off because I'm the best. I'm going to give it twice as much because I know somebody's gunning for me. Right.
And we had no idea who Usain Bolt was until that 9 seconds world record, but we only saw that. We didn't see
all the blood, sweat, and tears and all the running and all the work and all the eating and all the training. Right.
Yeah, and it applies to everything we've been speaking to now.
Absolutely.
When we're talking about your mental performance in a sport, and you're someone who is like me, who struggled with seeing their value without their sport, or seeing that they deserve to perform at a high level. If you're always constantly losing that battle, but you're never really taking the time to do the work that's going to actually resolve that problem, you're always kind of sweeping it under the rug. No matter what you do, no matter what new hobby you find, it's gonna find its way to come back until you can do the little work and do the daily reps, check off the boxes every single day.
And it's like we talked about in our session, right? Is why are you not somebody who's showing up for yourself? Right? Not just you, but all of us, right? We all have these moments. Like I know from past experience too, it's really easy for me to show up for clients when I have to do work with them. Well, why am I not, creating a podcast? Why am I not doing the little daily stuff that I have to do in order to achieve my bigger dreams? Right. So then we let go of all that shit and figure out why. Like, all right, well, why am I not enough for me? Right. And we figure that out. And then we work on healing that relationship. And that's the showing up every single day for those mundane tasks and doing. And when we start doing that, now all of a sudden we're changing our relationship with ourselves, and we're actually starting. Now I'm somebody who shows up for myself. When I tell myself I'm going to do this tomorrow, I fucking do it. Right. When I tell myself I'm going to do this and this and this, I start doing that and that and that. And now it's just like I would show up for somebody else. I show up for myself because I'm the most important person in my life.
We are our number one asset. No matter what we try to do, what we try to run from. If we don't take care of that, we're going to deteriorate our other relationships, our other parts of our life. Because we are not taking care of our number one asset. Man.
Jonah, dude, it's been such a pleasure.
Dude, like this shit fires me up, man.
Me too. I love it.
I love talking to you, dude. Like,
yes, agreed.
You're gonna blow up. You're gonna blow up. I know that.
Hey man, I'm just gonna keep doing the work and providing value and just polish that stone every day and see what happens, right? See how it morphs and see how I love, I've been doing self-discovery and stuff since I was young, a lot of listeners probably don't even know, right? So I went through a big depression when I was in 6th grade, and I was very fortunate that in my family, I was taught to talk about things, and I didn't always for a lot of my life, but when things really mattered, I would talk about it with my parents and people that I cared about. And it really allowed me to open up and see and to realize like I get to have a choice, right? And a lot of shit happens to us, but it's how we choose to see it, what we choose to do with it, that really can have a direction change in your life. And that was it for me. I realized like I have the ability to change my mindset around myself and depression, and I get to choose happiness. And you start doing that, you make those choices every single day, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, I don't even know what depression is anymore. I'm just a happy fucking person. And I went from, being the sad, depressed person to even other people like, oh my gosh, you're just so happy, or you're this light, or you're this, and I had to also learn that it was okay if I wasn't that all the time. Right. And accept and be able to move through all the emotions. But the biggest thing that I learned was I have the power to choose, and I get to decide, and sometimes you have to make that choice every single day. Mm-hmm. Right.
It's a simple choice, but the power of knowing you get to choose is undoubtedly our superpower.
Yeah.
I'll finish our little conversation with this story. Even though I had a pretty rough childhood growing up, like not the easiest, but I learned subconsciously what I didn't want. You know what I mean? I chose that what I did see wasn't something that I wanted to see all the time.
Yeah.
Or wanted to be all the time. And I actively chose subconsciously chose to make a better decision for myself every day, because I knew what I didn't want to see. Right. And because I did that without realizing, I've been able to put myself, set up my life for what I actually want it to be, instead of living someone else's life.
Yeah.
And getting someone to realize that they do have a choice in their actions and their beliefs is the hardest thing to do. But once they start believing that they are capable, that's the biggest win forever. Like I don't care about results as much as I care about someone's belief in themselves, because then the results come.
Absolutely.
They're there no matter what, wherever you're performing, whatever you're trying to accomplish. Like if you can just switch your belief around being actually just believing in yourself that you are capable, unstoppable.
Absolutely, bro. So what do you think we should tap on today?
Oh God.
Yeah. Because we got to add more value for everybody listening.
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if this is going to help at all, but like the stress of day to day, being able to let tiny things go and not obstruct your energy or your feeling throughout the day. I don't know if that helps or classifies, but you could help me flesh out that idea a little bit better.
That's what I do, right?
Oh yeah, always.
Is this something that's showing up for you right now?
I guess, yeah, since me and Hannah are leaving in 2 days. For the RV trip.
Yeah, so you guys just like built this new RV, just totally renovated it, and you're like gonna live the RV life and travel around, right?
Yeah. And with us, like it hasn't really hit me yet that we're about to leave. Like, what day is it? Wednesday? Yeah, we're taking off Saturday morning, and it's almost done, and it's almost here. So,
is there some fear around that for you? Just kind of like fear of the unknown, of like, oh, it's exciting, but also it's like, oh, how am I going to work on the road? There's like, there's little stresses, right?
Yeah. I think I'm good with the work part, right? Like that's how I built that system, so I could do it around. But it's really the unknown of like, I have to drive a trailer. I have to learn how to back that shit up. Like, what weirdos can we run into on the road? So like that stress of fearing the unknown of.
I think that's what we should tap on today.
I think it's right. I think you're right.
Right? You ready? Yeah. You remember?
You're going to have to walk me through it again.
I'm going to walk you through it. Just follow after me.
All right.
So anybody listening to just the podcast version, you need to go check out the YouTube. You need to check out the IG TV link. So then you can see what we're doing. You'll get a better idea. I've explained it in some of the other ones, but now you just got to watch us.
Yeah.
Right?
It's more exciting when you see
That's
it.
right. Even though I'm just stressed out about the unknown.
I'm stressed out about the unknown.
Because I don't know what I'm going to have to try and not control.
Because I don't know what I'm not going to have to control.
Something. We'll leave it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Even though
I'm
just so stressed about all these unknowns.
I'm just so stressed about all these unknowns.
I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself.
I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself.
Even though I'm scared of bad shit happening.
I'm scared of bad shit happening.
Because no matter how much I try to control it.
Because no matter how hard I try to control it.
I understand I don't have control over most things.
I understand that I don't have control over most things.
And I deeply and profoundly love and accept that I don't have control.
I deeply and profoundly love and accept that I don't have control.
Because now I can control the things that I can.
Because now I can control the things that I can.
I'm just going to let go of the stress of the things I cannot control.
I'm just going to let go of the stress of the things I cannot control.
I'm just going to let go of the stress of all the things I can't control on this trip.
I'm just going to let go of the stress of all the things I can't control on this trip.
There's just so much I can't control on this trip.
There's just so much I can't control on this trip.
The thought of all the possibilities are overwhelming.
The thought of all the possibilities are overwhelming.
So I'm just going to release all of these overwhelming thoughts.
So I'm just going to release all these overwhelming thoughts.
I'm just going to focus on all the amazing opportunities that are going to happen because of this trip.
I'm just going to focus on all the amazing opportunities that are going to happen because of this trip.
I'm just going to focus on all the amazing opportunities coming my way.
I'm just going to focus on all the amazing opportunities coming my way.
And I'm just going to let go of all the stress of all the everyday things that worry me.
And I'm going to let go of all the stress of all the everyday things that worry me.
Goodbye, stress.
Goodbye, stress.
Goodbye, stress.
Goodbye, stress.
Goodbye, stress.
Goodbye, stress.
Yeah, buddy. Good.
Oh, yes.
Nice big breath.
I don't know how that shit works, but it works.
It does, right? It does.
God, that helps me. I got to go run and do a bunch of errands after this. So
yeah, dude,
I feel a lot better now.
All those little things that are gonna, add up to be this beautiful big trip. You're gonna be in Washington soon, so we get to see you, hang out in real life.
Yeah, no more Zoom. No more Zoom.
Right. That's right.
In person and give you a big old sloppy wet kiss.
Yeah, okay. Bring it on.
Consensual.
Yes. Well, I'm a hugger.
Oh yeah, me too. I love it, dude. Well, thank you for letting me be here, man.
Dude, Jonah, such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Excited to have you on today. Thank you. And for everybody listening, like, share, subscribe, all those things. Shout out my boy Jonah, and we'll see you guys soon.